Los Angeles in the 1990s was obsessed with young stars. Studios were hunting for the next breakout kid. Agents were scanning middle schools for talent, and casting directors were trying to find a face that felt real enough to pull audiences in, but bright enough to sell a poster on its own. And then this kid from Knoxville showed up, Brad Renfro, and the whole town froze for a second, because even in a city full of talent, everyone could feel he had something different. He wasn't polished. He wasn't manufactured. He wasn't built for red carpets and choreographed interviews. He was raw. He was honest. He was sharp around the edges in a way that made him feel more human than half the adults auditioning on the same day. And that rawness is exactly what pulled him out of Tennessee and straight into Hollywood. Brad Renfro didn't grow up anywhere near the world he was about to enter. Born July 25, 1982, raised by his grandmother in Knoxville, he had the kind of tough, unfiltered childhood that you can't fake on camera. When casting director Molly Finn saw his picture, something clicked. When Joel Schumacher met him, it was over. He cast Brad in The Client. The kid was 11, standing across from Susan Sarandon and Tommy Lee Jones, and somehow holding the entire scene with this quiet intensity that didn't look like acting. It looked like someone telling the truth. People in town said he reminded them of River Phoenix, not in looks, but in that natural fire you can't coach. He wasn't trained, he wasn't molded, he just was. And by the late 90s, he wasn't just a working actor, he was a teen idol. Magazines loved him, fans followed him, critics kept calling him a prodigy. Hollywood crowned him early and then expected him to carry the weight of that crown before he'd even learned who he was. And that's the part the city never wants to talk about, because Brad's talent put him in rooms he wasn't emotionally ready for. Rooms filled with adults, money, temptation, and the kind of pressure most grown actors can barely survive. He didn't grow up with guardrails. He didn't grow up with PR teams. He didn't grow up with anyone teaching him how to handle success, attention, or the darker parts of the nightlife that hover around young actors. And so by 1998, at just 15, he was already slipping into trouble. That year, he was arrested for possession of cocaine and marijuana, hidden in his pants and sock. Still a child, still working, still giving incredible performances in films like Apt Pupil, but already on the radar of police, tabloids, and worried producers. Hollywood doesn't slow down for anyone, especially not kids. The roles kept coming, the praise kept coming, the paychecks kept coming, but the stability didn't. And Brad, like so many young stars before him, was suddenly living two lives at once. There was the actor who delivered unforgettable performances in Bully and Ghost World, and then there was the kid who, without guidance, without structure, without real support, began drowning under an addiction he couldn't outrun. In August 2000, he was arrested again, this time in Fort Lauderdale for attempting to steal a 45-foot yacht, teen idol on one side, frantic, spiraling kid on the other. Los Angeles didn't know what to do with that kind of contradiction, so the town did what it always does. It looked the other way. The next few years were a cycle: rehab, relapse, attempts at sobriety, court dates, brief stretches of calm, followed by longer stretches of chaos. People who worked with him said there was this heartbreaking pattern. He'd show up to set with genuine focus, nail the work, and then fall apart the moment the cameras stopped. By 2002, a probation violation sent him into another substance abuse program. But programs don't fix childhood. They don't fix trauma. They don't fix a boy who became famous before he had a chance to grow into himself. And then came December 2005, an LAPD undercover sting on Skid Row. Brad was arrested for attempted possession of heroin after trying to buy from an undercover officer. He pled guilty, got probation, and a few short jail stints for related issues like DUI and driving with a suspended license. Everything about his life felt like it was collapsing inward, but he kept working. He kept trying. He wasn't giving up, even if everyone else assumed he already had. The truth is, Brad Renfro deserved more protection than he ever got. Hollywood knew the drug problem among young actors was out of control. People whispered about troubled sets, whispered about teenage stars using before auditions, whispered about managers and agents scrambling to keep things quiet. But the city refused to confront the problem publicly. because acknowledging it meant taking responsibility, and responsibility is the one thing this town runs from faster than anything else. Then came January 15, 2008. Brad Renfro was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment, 25 years old. A toxicology report later confirmed it was an accidental overdose of heroin and morphine. One of the most gifted young actors of the 1990s, gone before he ever reached the age most actors finally hit their stride. And that's when the silence cracked, because Brad wasn't some forgotten former child star. He wasn't washed up. He wasn't irrelevant. He was still working, still talented, still capable of a comeback that could have changed the course of his entire life. And his death exposed exactly what Hollywood had been trying not to admit. The industry had a drug problem, a real one, a deep one, a problem that affected the youngest and most vulnerable people on its sets, a problem studios ignored, publicists covered, and executives downplayed for decades. Brad's death forced people in town to stop pretending, to stop calling overdoses lifestyle issues, to stop blaming kids for adult failures, to stop acting like addiction was a moral flaw instead of a medical crisis, and to finally acknowledge that fame amplifies everything, the good, the bad, and especially the dangerous. When the Oscars aired their In Memoriam segment that year and left Brad out, the backlash was loud. But the truth is, Brad's legacy wasn't missing from that screen. It was echoing through the entire city. His death sparked more honest conversations about young performers, sobriety, mental health, and the responsibility adults in power have to protect kids they profit from. Even now, if you walk past the lots in Hollywood, the gates look the same, the sound stages look the same, but the culture has shifted. There's more awareness, more safeguards, more willingness to talk openly about addiction instead of hiding it. And Brad's story is a part of that shift, not as a cautionary tale, but as a reminder of what happens when the world hands a kid a spotlight, money, access, and pressure, but no protection. Brad Renfro didn't die because he was weak. He died because he was fighting a battle the industry refused to discuss. He died because the people around him underestimated the weight he carried. He died because Los Angeles is a city that celebrates young stars until they break and pretends to be shocked afterward. But the truth is simple. His death exposed a system that was failing its youngest talents. And Hollywood has been trying to course correct ever since, because some losses shake the city, some force it to look in the mirror, and Brad Renfro's death was one it couldn't ignore.